There is a place, there is a moment, there is a feeling, an escape from your ordinary way. There is a place, there is a time, there is a reason to make today an extraordinary day. Look what you're missing, look what you're missing. There's a world for you to see, paradise to set you free. Look what you're missing, look what you're missing. Come along, I'll take you there, an adventure we can share. There is a place.
This time on Look What You're Missing, we're exploring the Overberg region of the Western Cape, also known as the Whale Coast. Now, Overberg literally means over the mountain, and it's an area rich in history. So besides all the usual stuff, we have some pretty cool museums lined up for you as well.
We also get to see the southernmost tip of Africa, stay in a jamming backpackers and find out a little bit more about a famous maritime code of conduct. But first we get to enjoy the beautiful curves of the R45 just outside of Cape Town, known as the Franschhoek Pass.
The Franschhoek Valley was originally known as Olifantshoek. When the Huguenot settlers began their activities here in about 1688, elephants still crossed these mountains when the seasons changed and trod out a defined path which was followed by the settlers looking for a route to the Overberg. Albeit only on foot and horseback, it was definitely not suitable for wagons. More than 100 years would pass before authority was obtained to build a proper pass that could safely accommodate wagons. And even then, the first attempts were rudimentary at best, and the chances of getting your wagon over the pass undamaged were fairly minimal. In 1822, Lord Charles Somerset, then Governor of the Cape Colony, set Major William Cuthbert Holloway of the Royal Engineers the task of investigating and building a proper pass to give access to the Overberg. The choice was either to build a pass over the Hottentots Holland Mountains or the Franschhoek Mountains. In the end, Franschhoek was chosen due to financial considerations. Work was completed by Holloway in 1825, and his pass served as the main throughway to the Overberg until Solari's Pass was completed in 1830. It served with only routine maintenance until 1932, when it was reconstructed. And finally, a bitumen surface was provided during the 1960s. Holloway's Pass featured the first ever stone arch bridge in the country, and amazingly, the very same bridge is still in use today.
There are just a few roads in the Cape that you can ride over and over and over again, and that has got to be one of them. The flow is just perfect for a motorcycle, and there's plenty of spots where you can risk a bit of a look around. However, it's also worth stopping here and there because the views off the back of the mountain are just absolutely incredible.
And it's definitely worth stopping at the Stone Arch Bridge over Jan Joubert.
It's also a road though where you hear of a lot of motorcycle accidents. So please be careful, and always bear in mind those simple techniques that get your motorcycle through a turn.
Like setting yourself up before the corner. Sort out your braking, your speed and your gear selection before the corner if you can.
As you tip it in, remember to look through the corner at where you want to be. It's a proven fact. You'll go where you look.
And always remember that when the bike is leaned over, your tires have less traction. So be careful with both the throttle and the brake.
And now we're completely done with the pass. This is the T. Kloof Dam, one of Cape Town's main water sources. So, let's go check it out.
As large as it seems, the Kloof Dam is in fact only the 7th largest dam in South Africa. It is, however, the main water storage unit for the Riviersonderend Berg River Water Transfer Scheme, one of the most imaginative water transfer schemes in the world. It is thought the name Kloof comes from the brown color of the water, so in English it would translate to tea water ravine. The dam, when 100% full, holds 482 million cubic meters of water and covers an area of 5,100 hectares. but it is the inner workings of the transfer scheme that make this dam so much more interesting. The scheme essentially involved linking the two water catchment areas of the Rafie End and the Berg River to discharge surplus winter runoff into one central storage dam. When the need for water arises, it is delivered by gravity through many kilometers of tunnels and siphon shafts that cut through the Jonkershoek and Klein Drakensberg mountain ranges to where it is needed. Surrounded by farmlands, majestic mountains, and a variety of wildlife, Theewaterskloof Dam also provides excellent conditions for all sorts of water sports and fishing.
And now we get to ride the second fantastic pass of the day, except this time it's gravel.
And it's called the Van der Stels Pass, and it's going to take us through to a little village known as Botterfield.
And strangely enough, the Van der Stels Pass is not named after Simon van der Stel, who was the last commander and the first governor of the Cape. It's named after his father, Adrian van der Stel.
The beautiful Van der Stel Pass lies between Botterfield and Villersdorp, and this part of the Overberg is filled with incredible scenery, which gets even better during the flower and canola season. It forms part of what could be classified as a shortcut between the two little towns. But the fact that it is shorter is definitely not the reason you need to travel this way. The gravel road meanders all along the valley, following the course of the Botterfield. It is a delightful road to ride, with gentle curves and quite a few elevation changes, keeping you engaged while behind the handlebars. It is generally very well maintained, and therefore, even though there are quite a few sharp hairpin bends in the road, the gradients are easy enough so you could even drive it in a small sedan. All along the way, there are working farms that produce apples, olive oil, lavender and wine, as well as flowers, milk and horses. The pass ends in the little town of Botterfield, named after the Botterfield, which for the most part follows the swing of the pass before finally emptying into a mushy marsh close to the river's mouth called Botterfield Lagoon. It is said that the name comes from the bot in botter, butter, because the local Khoi traded butter with traders from Cape Town.
There is, however, another thought about the name that comes from the Afrikaans word bot, which means stubborn or headstrong, because as the stories go, the early farmers actually tried to change the course of the river.
But they never succeeded, because time and time again the river would go back to its original course. So they would say die rivier is bot, which over time became Botterfield, which basically means this river is stubborn.
That's the one thing I absolutely love about the Western Cape, is that you don't have to ride too far from the one amazing view to the next. In fact, it's almost like the next splendid vista is always just around the corner.
Now we're going to ride one of my favorite roads in this area, and it's quite difficult to choose a favorite because in the Overberg area there's some really stunning riding. Anyway, this is one of my favorites, and it's known as the Tesla-Stal Road.
And the general condition of the gravel roads in the Overberg area is so good that it's little wonder that some of the trainers I know use this area as the introduction to off-road riding for guys and girls that are just starting off on this journey. The roads are really so easy to ride a motorcycle on.
Speaking about beginners, let's have a quick look at how every trip should begin, by making sure your motorcycle is in tip-top condition. We visited once again with master mechanic himself, Shane Hoskins at Donford Motor Aid, to find out a little bit more about what pre-trip checks we should be doing and the very basics about motorcycle care and maintenance.
And straight after that, we're going to have a quick look at what tools we should be thinking about taking with us. So we're here with Shane Hoskins from Donford Motor Aid, and we've come here today to get some tips on bike prep and also simple maintenance.
You've invested a lot in your motorcycle and you rely on it to take you on adventures and bring you back home again. But it needs regular cleaning and maintenance. And as we've covered cleaning in an earlier episode, Shane is going to take us through some of the basics you should be checking before you head off into the great outdoors.
Now, while it's important to do regular checks on your motorcycle, please don't mess with stuff you don't understand. Trying to set your own valves, for instance, because you've watched the video, can not only leave you stranded, it can also end up in a very costly fix. So, if you don't know what you're doing, please leave the big stuff to the professionals.
Over to Shane.
Okay, let's start with the basics. Something simple, number plate and license disc. Check that they are secure and check that your disc is valid, as it can cause a lot of inconvenience if you're far from home. Walk around your motorcycle and have a look for any water, oil or fluid leaks. On a water-cooled motorcycle, physically inspect the radiator, have a look at your hose connections, and please check the water pump for any signs of leakage. Physically check your forks, moving your fingers up and down, checking for any signs of oil and pit marks. Next, do a quick once over, manually grabbing parts by hand such as your screen, mirrors, handguards, luggage rack, checking for security. Check throttle, clutch and brake levers for ease of movement, and remember that they should have small amounts of play. Physically check that the brake light is functioning. Check both brake fluid reservoir levels. A low level could possibly indicate a worn brake pad or a leak. Physically inspect your brake pads and discs. If you are unsure, have a professional do it for you. Another important thing to check is chain and sprockets. Again, if you are unsure, take it to a professional. And while we're here, inspect the tire, physically rotate the wheel and have a look for any abnormalities. Physically inspect the wheel rims for any signs of damage, and please make sure that you have no loose spokes, as it can be dangerous. Switch on the ignition and make sure that all electronics are working, such as headlight, indicators, hooter. One thing I have learned over the years is that battery maintenance is important. Again, if you are unsure, have it checked. If you're a regular off-road rider, check your air filter. And last but not least, oil level. Please check your owner's manual for the correct checking procedure.
Well, thanks so much for that, Shane. And now we're going to get straight into having a look at what tools we carry with us on our journeys.
Happy prepping!
Now, whether you're traveling from Cape Town to Sutherland or Cape Town to Cairo, you will at some point in time experience mechanical problems in one form or another. Now, it could be something more serious that you cannot fix on your own, but could also be something as simple as a puncture. And you really don't want a flat wheel or the fallout from a small motorcycle crash, leaving you stuck out in the middle of nowhere.
Adventure riders tend to be a self-reliant bunch, and most of us like to be hands-on with our motorcycles. So let's have a look at some of the basic tools and spares you should be carrying with you to get yourself back on the trail, in most cases through self-help.
So the first thing we usually pack are tubes, and I take one for each wheel. Along with that, you're going to need tire levers, 2 of, 3 are better, and get decent levers. You don't want to be out there fighting with a tough sidewall with those little levers that aren't much better than screwdrivers. And then you get various valve tools that can speed up the tire changing process quite considerably.
And then a compact electric pump or hand pump, and also some of those CO2 canisters, sometimes referred to as bombs. Also, don't forget, for tubeless tires you need to pack the plugs and the necessary tools to insert them. And even with tubeless tires, it's very handy to have a spare tube on hand for those extreme emergencies like sidewall cuts.
Epoxy or liquid steel. Punch a hole in your engine case and this stuff will literally save the day. Along with that, you may want to consider carrying a small bottle of oil so that you can top up your engine if you're forced to make this kind of repair.
Safety wire and cable ties. Now you'd be amazed what you can fix with these 2 items.
Now, the small bag of tools that you find under most motorcycle seats is actually fairly useless. You need to set yourself up with tools that are specific to your bike. So you need to work out what size spanners, sockets, torques and screwdrivers you need to do things like remove and fit wheels, adjust your chain, adjust your handlebars, your levers, and remove and fit bodywork, stuff like that.
Whenever you work on your bike, use only the tools you carry with you. Figure out before you leave home how to do things like save your bike from drowning.
Duct or gaffer tape. Peel off a couple of feet, wrap it around a flat piece of plastic and you have a nice compact carry item. And once again, you'll be absolutely amazed what you can do and repair with this stuff. And I personally prefer to carry gaffer tape.
Spare nuts and bolts. A few common nuts and bolts can be used for a variety of repairs.
Levers. If you're going to be traveling far away from home for an extended period of time, consider carrying extra spare ones because they're easy to break and they suck to ride without.
A small tin of lubricant can come in very handy in certain situations.
Spare jumper cables can be a real situation saver in the event of a flat battery, and also consider fitting extension cables if your battery is not easily accessible.
And lastly, don't forget a rag or some way of cleaning your hands. Putting dirty hands back into your favorite pair of gloves is never very nice.
And that's about that. But as with everything else in the world of motorcycles, the tools and spares you carry are going to depend largely on your personal needs, what and where you ride. But we hope that we've given you some idea of what you need to carry.
And it's really worth spending some time getting to know your motorcycle a little bit better mechanically while deciding what to carry with you at the same time. And now, let's get back to Tesla's Dal.
The Tesla's-Dal Road meanders between the R320 and the R326 and is the more scenic gravel alternative to the R316, which runs from Caledon in the direction of Napier. All along the way, the seemingly endless patchwork of wheat fields and canola fields stretch across the plains to distant mountains, quite often leaving you amazed at the vastness before you.
And now we're in the heart of the Overberg. Let's have a look at this area a little more closely.
Overberg is another one of those really simplistic names given by the early settlers to this land. At one point, Overberg referred to everywhere over the mountains, referring to the Hottentot Holland range.
The Overberg is bound by the Langeberg mountain range in the north and in the south by the sea. Agriculture and animal husbandry have been the mainstays of this area for more than 2.5 centuries, with the most important crops being fruits and grains. The area has in fact always been considered as the breadbasket of the Cape, and the wheat fields are a major breeding ground for South Africa's national bird, the blue crane. Merino sheep and cattle farms are also found in abundance. It is also well known for its fine wines, and the cool maritime climate is responsible for some really legendary wines. From the windswept coastal plains to the heights of the mountains, the climate sets the pace for slow ripening grapes bursting with flavor, which translates into great wines expressing the soul of the Overberg. The Overberg coastline is also known as the Whale Coast. From about June to November every year, southern right whales make their way to these waters to calve and nurse their young. And towns like Hermanus have become world famous for their whale watching viewpoints from the shoreline and from boats. Humpback whales also frequent the coastline and can usually be spotted between May and December. It is a region full of contrasts: rugged mountain ranges, fynbos, rolling fields and splendid coastal vistas. And an area where you could easily get lost, but just as easily find yourself.
Now we've been leading our friends towards one of the absolute gems in the area. It's a road that you just have to add to any journey through the Overberg, and we know it as Sandy's Glen.
Did I say one of my favorite roads earlier? Because this is definitely another. It is so easy on a motorcycle to suspend the destination as the focus point of the journey and rather take in the beauty and entertainment that's on offer en route.
And on this road, there's a lot on offer.
That is often the greatest thing about riding an adventure bike. The ability to take any little detour you find, or go off to explore side roads you come across, provided you're not trespassing, of course. No matter where they are, tar, gravel, easy or rough, a motorcycle gives you total freedom to decide whether to turn left, right, stop or drive on. Off the beaten track, you will find the options for exploration are wide and varied, and the rather short little piece of road known as Sandy's Glen is a perfect example of just this. It's difficult to describe how much fun riding this piece of road actually is.
Well, now that that's out of our system, we're starting to look forward to relaxing at our first night's accommodation.
Except it's going to be the accommodation for 2 nights, because tomorrow we have a very interesting outride planned in this area. So right now we're on our way to the southernmost tip of Africa, the little village of Struisbaai, and a rather jamming backpackers establishment known as the Cape Agulhas Backpackers.
But before we get there, we're going to briefly visit one of the oldest settlements in this area, simply known as Lwym.
Lwym started life as a mission station and was founded in 1824, and is named after the place the Israelites rested after they had crossed the Red Sea. Besides teaching the gospel, the missionaries also taught the people skills such as milling, carpentry and thatching. In fact, the thatchers of Lwym are still in demand today throughout South Africa. Lwym has several historic buildings, but their prized possession has got to be the old water mill built in 1828.
Right, next up, Cape Agulhas and the southernmost tip of Africa. Surely a bucket list item for every motorcycle.
Agulhas is the southernmost town on the African continent, and also the point where the Atlantic and Indian Oceans meet, also known as the Cape of Storms. Many ships have met their end attempting to conquer the wild seas off these shores. The windswept, rugged and beautiful coastline supports a rich marine and intertidal life, with breeding sites of rare birds such as the African black oyster catcher found here. The nearby islands are also home to a variety of seabirds and seals, and in spring and early summer, southern right whales frequent these waters. Besides its ecological importance, the area has a rich cultural heritage. Various archaeological sites in the area show evidence of Khoisan migration and settlements. In the shallow gullies near the lighthouse, remains of ancient fish traps made by the Khoikhoi can still be seen.
My betrokkenheid is maar in toerisme. So ek bly hier en ek promoveer die plek so goed ek kan. Want dit is 'n unieke plek. Dit is 'n ongelooflike plek. In die eerste 6 huise is in 1929 gebou. Die getal in 1951 was daar 56 mense. Vandag is daar maar 535.
Dis baie interessant want die meeste van die klein dorpies wat ons nou toe gaan het gewoonlik die kerk is op die oorsprong van die dorp en hier is dit nog 'n unieke punt die ligtoring is eintlik wat die begin van die dorp was.
Ja, ons praat van die vuurtoring want toe hy gebou is destyds het hulle vuur gemaak bo-op. Een van die mooier plekke, natuurplekke wat julle gewis ook op julle lysie kan sit is De Mont wat behoort in Cape Nature. Ons het so 340 verskillende voëlsoorte in ons omgewing, spesies in ons omgewing met 2500 plantspesies. Die 2 oseane is dis eintlik maar net 'n geografiese feit.
Yes.
Dat jy 'n denkbeeldige lyn het wat sê dit skei die 2 oseane.
The most southern backpackers in Africa was established in March 2006 by Milan and Erin Conradi. After getting married, they decided to start their honeymoon from home to see where the wind blew them, and they ended up backpacking from Cape Agulhas to the Transkei. It was on their way back that they decided to start their own backpackers in Cape Agulhas at their home. Not only was their home very well located, but so was their new zest for life, says Erin. We are living in the best kept secret in the world. Why not share it with the rest of the world?
Well, we've never really stayed in a backpackers before, but I have to say, I love the atmosphere here already. And I'm not sure if it's the decor, the fact that people from all over the world congregate here, the happy and smiley faces behind the bar, or just that it's the southernmost backpackers in Africa. But you just can't help feeling happy the minute you walk in here.
The Cape Agulhas Backpackers offers many accommodation options. A fully equipped kitchen, swimming pool, pool table. And then there is one of the nicest and coziest bars around, where it is claimed a fire is built 365 days of the year. Truly, it is the most inviting home away from home that anyone could wish to spend time at. There is a long list of activities available in the area as well. And the very helpful folk at the Backpackers will assist you with everything, from whale watching and boat rides to feeding the stingrays in the harbour. All you have to do is ask.
And that's unfortunately all we have time for. But make sure you tune in next week because we still have loads more Overberg to share with you. Until then,
Ride safe.
look after yourselves.
Look what you missing. Look what you missing. Come along, I'll take you there. An adventure we can share. There is a place. There is a moment. There is a feeling, an escape from your ordinary way. There is a place.